Hi, friends. Missy Mom back from Kind Academy, talking to you about Black history from a decolonized perspective again. Thank you so much for watching and welcome to class. Today we are talking about class number 3, and this is the class where we talk about Harriet Tubman. But before we do that, does anyone remember what we learned about last week? Do you remember what an obelisk looks like? What about a pyramid? Or what about a great enclosure? If you haven't watched those videos yet, then please go ahead and watch class number 2. If you haven't got that one yet, then please go ahead and grab it if you can. All right, let's get started. Today we're talking about Harriet Tubman. Do you know anything about Harriet Tubman? Have you ever heard about Harriet Tubman before? Have you ever heard that name? All righty. If you haven't heard about Harriet Tubman, that's totally okay. That's why we're here to talk about her today. If you have heard about her, please go ahead and let me know. Write it down, put it in the classroom. However, you're watching this, put it in the comments. Up to you. All right. Just let me know at least one thing you know about Harriet Tubman, or you could just say it to an adult or somebody nearby. Okay. All right. Well, I love Harriet Tubman. She's actually one of my favorite people from history for a lot of reasons. And today we're going to actually get to talk about why. Okay. So let's get started. All right. So Harriet Tubman was born around 1820 in Maryland. So just as a heads up, she was born as an enslaved person. What does it mean to be enslaved? Okay. So this is a really important question. But being enslaved, it means being forced to work and not even being paid for it. Okay. So Harriet Tubman was forced to work without even being paid for it in our history. So in American history, we had something happen that was called enslavement, and people with darker skin were forced to work for people with lighter skin. So Black people were forced to work for white people. This happened a lot, especially in the southern states, and it was a really horrible system that was not really kind at all as for Black people, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and what Harriet Tubman did because of that. Okay, so being enslaved was unfair. Harriet Tubman was forced to work very hard by the time she was 5 years old, even if it was very cold or very hot outside, and her or her family weren't even paid for it. Okay, so can you show me with your hands how old you are? So most of the learners who watch this are between the ages of about 5 to 10 years old. So usually we talk about how if you're holding up about 5 fingers, that's how old Harriet Tubman was. She was much younger than most learners that I usually have who are watching this video. So it's really sad. That means that she couldn't go hang out with her family. That means that she couldn't hang out with her friends. That means she couldn't go to school like you probably do or homeschool with her family the way that we can, right? So this was a really sad thing for her, okay? By the time she was about 30 years old, she decided to escape. Okay. Now, escaping was actually illegal. It was not allowed. She was not allowed to escape from this life that was a really horrible life. Okay. She had to use something called the Underground Railroad. All right. She had to walk 100 miles to get to freedom. She had to be very brave to do this. Now, have you ever had to be brave? Can you think about a time that you had to be brave or maybe had to do something that was scary or hard? Usually, my learners here say like sleeping in their own room, turning off the lights, going down a big slide, or maybe like jumping in the deep end of the pool. So, those are all very kind of scary things that we kind of do because we know that we want to be brave, right? So, we do it. So, that's what Harriet Tubman did. She had to do something that was very scary for her. She had to go through woods and really dark places and really scary places, but she knew that it would allow her to get to freedom. So, that's why she did it. Okay. So, she, like I said, did something called, she traveled on something called the Underground Railroad. Okay. So, do you know what the Underground Railroad is? And if you do, you can tell me, or you can say it out loud, or you can tell an adult, or you can write it down, completely up to you. Okay. But the Underground Railroad was a group of people, homes, and hideouts that enslaved people, right? People who were enslaved used to escape from enslavement. Okay. They called it underground because it had to be a secret. All right. So she made that very clear that it was a secret. And that meant that nobody could know that would possibly get her in trouble. So only very safe people knew about the Underground Railroad. And the people on the Underground Railroad had to be very secretive about it so that they didn't get caught. Because if people on the Underground Railroad who were escaping enslavement got caught, they could go to jail or they could go back to being enslaved. So it was very dangerous for them to escape. Now, if you look at a map, this is the map that we are looking at from the days where Harriet Tubman escaped. This is what the Underground Railroad, these are some of the paths it took, okay? Some people started in North Carolina and they would go up, 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 and especially to Philadelphia was a big place that a lot of people went. Or some people may have come from Georgia. As you can see, these are what you call slave states in this color here, right? And this is what you call a free state, okay? These were areas that didn't really have anything going on just yet. But people would go from the north, from the south, this is the south, the slave state, mostly to the north. Some people don't know that some people actually went to Florida too, which is down here to get to freedom, okay? Sometimes earlier on, it was actually a place for them to be free, okay? So some people travel down here to get to freedom too, okay? Or to south to Mexico as well. Mexico actually helped a lot of people get to freedom, right? And then all the way up here is going to be Canada, all right? So that is some geography for you, my friends. I'm going to go ahead and clear my drawing so you can see the rest, okay? Here we go. All right, so Harriet Tubman went back 19 times on that very dangerous, very spooky, very scary Underground Railroad, all right? She wanted to save a lot of other enslaved people. She actually saved over 1,000 enslaved people escape, okay? She joined the army. She was a general, she was a super spy, and she was even a nurse. She was actually the first woman in US history to lead an armed force, so in the army, okay? She was so brave. They've even discussed putting her on the $20 bill for American money. If she is the first woman to be put, she would be the first woman to go on a $20 bill if she gets this. So we're hoping that they do this soon, okay? We should all be brave like Harriet, all right? So Harriet Tubman is amazing. I love, love, love her. Next up, you are going to watch a video about her life. It's going to be Sung History, and I'm going to share it with you shortly. But I just want you to notice as you're watching the video, something is happening, and maybe tell an adult or tell somebody nearby, or put in the comments what you notice in that video happening to her. And I'm going to tell you now, she actually has something called narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is something that happens in your brain that causes you to be very, very tired all of the time without you knowing. So it could be like the middle of a day, you could have already taken a nap and slept, but you get really tired and you fall asleep. That's narcolepsy. Now, this happened a lot to Harriet Tubman. Some people think it's because when she was younger, she was hit in the head by a very heavy lead object while she was allowing somebody else to escape to enslavement, and somebody hit her in the head and it caused her to have this thing happen that made her sleep all the time, okay? So that's called narcolepsy, right? So you'll see that in the video, and it looks kind of silly, but it's something she lived with for her entire life, but she was still able to do a lot of awesome things in her life, even with this thing that caused her to want to sleep all the time, okay? So that is Harriet Tubman, guys. I hope you enjoyed learning about her, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Bye.